Hi guys, Celeste here, and as you guys know, I'm obsessed with true crime. I can't say I love it because that's pretty gruesome, but it interests me, it fascinates me. There's so many aspects of it that I get interested in. I care about the lives of the people that are hurt by it. I care about, the psychology of the people that perpetrate it, and I'm interested in forensics. I love using science to solve things, so there's a lot of things that go into my interest in true crime. But I wanted to talk to you guys about a case, and this is a very famous case. It's caught the attention of a number of French intellectuals at the time as a sort of example of oppressive classes and to bring attention to the plight of workers, among other topics. It's, like I said, very well known. A lot of people have talked about it, but it caught my attention for a few reasons. It kind of fascinates me, so I thought I'd talk about it today. So French intellectuals did a lot of writing on the topic of this case. There's a collection of some of these works that you can buy if you're interested in reading it. The story has been adapted into plays and films as well. Of course, I must be talking about the Papin sisters, and I'm going to butcher all these names because I don't speak French and I don't know how to pronounce French words, and most of the words I'm going to say that I will say wrong are French, so I am sorry in advance. I'm trying. This case was of extra interest to me because it is about sisters who kill, much like my sister and I, but the comparisons completely stop there, and you will see why I say that. Anyway, skipping over that. A lot of the original subject matter in this case is in French, so unfortunately I don't understand it, and I primarily had to research using secondary sources and translations. Like I said, I will butcher every French name in here, but onto the case. The sisters were born in Le Mans in Western France. Although they were 6 or 7 years apart, they had this incredible bond with each other. So to start out, Christine Papin was born on March 8th, 1905, and Leah was born on September 15th, 1911. And they had an older sister who joined a convent. From what I was able to find out, their parents had a troubled relationship. It was not good at all. Like Gustave and Chamance dated for a while, then she became pregnant, so they ended up getting married in 1901. And his family reportedly did not approve of the match at all. They found Chamance to be unpleasant and were concerned about rumors that she was involved with her boss. But Gustave was madly in love with her, and besides, she was pregnant. So despite his parents' disapproval, he went ahead and married her. However, things didn't stay happy between them for very long. Gustave started suspecting that she was, in fact, having an affair with her boss, and it wasn't helped by the persistent rumors to this effect. So everybody was talking about it. Everyone said, no, she's having an affair with her boss. He decided to test this suspicion, so he proposed that they move to another city. And Chamance, by all appearances, overreacted to this suggestion and threatened to commit suicide, which, yes, that may be an overreaction. But at the same time, I'm thinking if someone just wanted me to up and move, I'd be pretty upset about it, especially if they were like, no, we're doing this. So I'm not sure if that really proves anything. Anyway, to him, Gustave, this confirmed the affair, and it really deteriorated their marriage. Gustave started drinking heavily as an escape, and not long after Leah was born, Gustave filed for divorce from Chamance. Then, by all accounts, Chamance was a terrible mother to the children, in addition to apparently not being the most faithful wife, according to the rumors. She sent the oldest child, Amelia, to an orphanage when she was 10. And then Christine and Leah also didn't have great childhoods. They were sent to live with their aunt and uncle for a time before they were also sent to an orphanage. In the orphanage, they were subjected to abuse, both physical and verbal. Christine wanted them to also follow their older sister into a convent. However, their mother decided that instead they would go to work and make money. So in the orphanage, they were trained as servants. This is kind of where their personalities seem to be formed. Christine emerged as the more outgoing of the two and the leader. She became a hard worker and an excellent cook in time, and Leah was very subordinate to her sister. She was reportedly very withdrawn and introverted. After leaving the orphanage and finding employment, they did well at a few places, but it was short-lived. Their mother was unhappy with their low wages that they were earning and forced them to find new jobs often so that they could find better pay, which she was getting some of. So she was trying to benefit from their working. This takes the sisters to the Lancelin family. Christine became employed in the Lancelin house, and later Leah joined her, marking the first time that the sisters would find employment together. So before then, they'd both been employed, but they were employed with different families. Renee Lancelin was a retired lawyer who employed the girls together, and they worked there for 7 years total. Renee's wife, Leonie, praised the girls at first for their hard work and service. She was reportedly always very demanding, but as the years went on, Leonie struggled with depression and mental illness. After time, it's alleged that she became abusive towards the Papin sisters for any small error, so she would check the cleanliness of the house with a white glove and would physically attack and abuse the sisters for any mistakes that they made, often hitting their heads on walls. No one knew what was going on inside the house, however, where outside sources have said they believe the girls were treated well, given good food and a heated room. So I'm not sure who's reporting that they were being abused. Maybe it came from the sisters themselves. I'm not sure. So, or there were some people who did witness it that maybe someone else in the family. I'm not sure where that comes from. I just read that reportedly they were being abused. So this all takes us to February 2nd, 1933. This is where the story goes from really sad and tragic for the sisters to gruesome and horrific. Leonie Lancelin and her daughter went out shopping that day, leaving Christine and Leah to run errands. One of these errands was to pick up an iron that was out for repairs. When they got home, they plugged it in and a fuse blew and the electricity went out. Since the Lancelins were out and not expected to return soon, the sisters planned to replace the fuse in the morning and not worry about it until then. However, Leonie and her daughter came back unexpectedly, and when Madame Lancelin was informed that there was no electricity, she flew into a rage and attacked the girls. This is what the girls have said. At this point is when Christine lost it, and she fought back. She couldn't hold back her anger anymore after years of mistreatment. When the Lancelin daughter Genevieve jumped in to help her mother, Christine turned on her, gouging her eyes out with her fingers. At the same time, Leah did the same thing to Leonie when she was prompted to do so by Christine. Now the Lancelins couldn't see, so Christine and Leah went and grabbed a knife and a hammer to kill the women and mutilate their bodies. It ended up being a bloody, bloody scene. There was teeth and blood everywhere. The skulls and faces, when they were found, were unrecognizable or gone completely. Eyeballs were found meters away from the bodies, and there were deep gashes and lacerations across both of the women's bodies. It is estimated that the attack took 2 hours to do all of this to the Lancelins. Afterwards, the girls lit a candle and went to bed. Late that night, Renee came home to find the house dark and assumed that his wife and daughter had gone to the party they had planned to attend, so he went to it as well, not thinking anything of it, but noticing that they were not at the party, he got concerned and rushed home, only to find that all the doors were locked from the inside, and the house was dark with the exception of Christine and Leah's room, which was lit by a candle. Renee got suspicious and went to the police, who broke into the house, and there they found the bodies of Leonie and Genevieve. When the police broke down the door to the girls' room, they found them naked in their bed, along with a bloody knife and hanger. The girls immediately confessed to the killings and were arrested on the spot. They were acting really defiant when they were caught. They said, well, we'll go if we want to. And Leah shut down after a look from her sister and did not speak about the crimes at all. They later said that they had killed the women in self-defense and that they were being attacked and would rather kill than be killed. They also said that they used a knife and hammer, trading the weapons back and forth several times in between the two of them. They also later claimed that they had no remorse for the attack and also no hatred towards the women they killed, but they did not want to accept abuse from them. Like, they just reached their point and they snapped. The case immediately caught the attention of the public. They were so fascinated by it. The girls had no prior criminal history or anything in their past that would cause concern. They were reported to be very religious. They attended church regularly. So, of course, everyone wondered what could have happened to turn these meek and well-behaved women into murderers. The general public wanted them to be executed. They were up in arms about this. However, the case really caught the interest of, as I mentioned before, French intellectuals of the time who argued that this tragedy was the result of class struggles. Still others said that the sisters were insane and struggling from mental disorders, pointing out that their uncle had committed suicide and their grandfather had a quick and violent temper. Some speculated that this was a case of what was called twin psychosis or shared delusional disorder. I'm not sure that's actually a real thing, but I think at the time they thought it was. I'll have to look into that. When the girls went to trial, Christine was considered to be the main aggressor and Leah was considered to be her accomplice. They were both found sane and guilty, with Christine being sentenced to death by guillotine and Leah was given the lesser sentence of 10 years in prison with hard labor. Christine really struggled being away from her sister, and while she was waiting for her sentence to be carried out, she tried to gouge her own eyes out. She was put in a straitjacket, and her sentence was commuted from a death sentence to life in prison. Here it gets even weirder. Christine still couldn't handle being away from Leah. After 8 months apart, she begged to be housed with her sister. She started acting more erratically, begging to be with her sister, rolling on the floor, and using profane and sexual language. Now, I don't know if this can be corroborated because it was denied by the sisters, but the psychologist said that he uncovered that the girls had an incestuous relationship with each other. People have speculated that this is supported by the fact that the girls rarely wanted to go anywhere or hang out with anyone else when they were employed as servants. They preferred to keep them to themselves and just be around each other. And courts, however, rejected Christine's request to be with her sister, and in protest, she refused to eat. She also suffered bouts of depression and was taken to a mental institution. Unfortunately, she did not recover and died on May 18th, 1937, related to malnourishment from starving herself. Leah, however, stayed in prison for 8 years, after which she was released on good behavior, so she was a model prisoner. She reportedly moved in with her mother, changed her name to Marie, and lived a quiet life. It is said that she died in 2001 after suffering a stroke, and she was buried next to her sister. So this was quite the story and caught the attention not only of the press, but of significant figures at the time and the imagination of the public as well, and it inspired films, articles, and books. There are 2 notable movies that are loosely based on the Papin sisters and this whole case, and I watched them so you don't have to. One is entitled Sister, My Sister, and it was made in 1994, which was an adaptation of a play that had been written, and the other one is a 2000 film, Murderous Maids, a French film on the subject, and that's caught on as a very popular nickname for the Papin sisters, Murderous Maids. Sister, My Sister was kind of a strange film. It really seemed to focus on the idea of a sexual relationship between the sisters, even though this was just speculation. It also portrayed Christine as being somewhat unstable, although there didn't seem to be any reports before the murders of this being the case. It also focused on the troubled relationship that they had with their mother and the resentment that Christine felt for her mother, along with Leah's desire for her mother's approval and love. It seemed to hint that there was a growing resentment from Mrs. Lancelin, who was named Danzard, Mrs. Danzard, in this film, because she suspected that the sisters were engaged in a relationship she found inappropriate. In addition, she and Christine both suspect that Leah has some interest in their mistress's daughter. It's really slow and meandering for a lot of the movie, with splashes of really awkward parts that are uncomfortable to watch. I don't know. It was a trip, let's just say. Now on to Murderous Maids. It's a lot more recent. It's a French film, so it has subtitles, which I obviously watched it with the subtitles. It's not an easy movie necessarily to track down and watch right away. The oldest sister, Amelia, who became a nun, is featured a lot more prominently in this version, and it as a figure of influence in the story. I thought that was interesting. This one also put some focus on the sexual relationship between the sisters. If you just watch the movie, you would take it as fact. However, there was never any confirmation that this kind of relationship existed between them, and it was just a claim from a psychologist at the hospital after their arrest that he said he uncovered. Besides, people already maybe thought that because the sisters were found naked in bed together, but I don't think that really says anything for sure. So we don't really know if it's true or not. It very well may have been. I just don't want to say it as fact. If I had to pick, I would definitely say Murderous Maids was a better film, although I liked some of the acting in Sister, My Sister better. I thought the acting was really good in that. Both films take liberties with the facts of the case, and both of them fixate on some of the more speculative aspects. Both also depict how dehumanizing the conditions the girls lived in were, despite this perhaps being standard practice at the time. They are expected to adhere to their station and treat their employers with deference at all times, despite any abuse they suffered. The film really helped to embody the idea that the girls were somehow sympathetic figures, although Sister, My Sister really played up this sensational and somewhat lurid details, I think, more than the other one did. So now that we went over this case, has anyone watched either of these movies? I'm a little sad that I did at times. I mean, I don't regret it, but I was just like, for some of it. What are your thoughts on the case? I'd love to hear from you. Do you feel sympathetic towards the sisters the way a lot of the intellectuals did at the time, or do you think they were just bad people waiting for their time to snap? Let me know what you think.